Hello, everybody out there, and welcome to the GameVamp NewsCast. This is the place where we cover the top news in the games industry as a whole, and I'm so excited to be back on Freeze Frame Rate, where I'm going to be bringing 2 to 3 videos per week on the games industry as a whole, and one video that you always can rely on will be the GameVamp NewsCast. Now let's get it going, let's get it rolling. And so this one, we're going to cover 4 stories in the games industry this week. And the first one, I titled it, The Dragon is Coming Again. So the news out of this one is Capcom announced that they are releasing and whether you can call it a definitive edition or you can call it a remaster, whatever you want to call it. But in the end, they are releasing Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen for the PS4 and Xbox One. They released this on Twitter. They tweeted it, and I'm going to quote it here for you. They're saying that they said, reclaim your heart in an epic action RPG, Dragon Dogma's Dark Arisen, coming to PS4 and XB One this fall. Now, a little history on the game a little bit. Dragon Dogma was originally released on PS3, Xbox 360, and PC in May 22nd, 2012. And then a year later, after they released the DLC called Dark Arisen, they ended up packaging it together as one game with the DLC on the disc. And then they re-released the game and called it Dragon Dogma's Dark Arisen, which the Dark Arisen DLC was great. A lot of people very much favored that DLC. So they released that with Dark Arisen, and it did well. It actually sold pretty well. It sold around 2.19 million copies, which for a brand new franchise, especially for Capcom, a brand new franchise in the RPG area, that actually did better than they expected. And for a new franchise, that's a good starting point. You usually want to get into the 2 to 3 if you can, for a brand new franchise. If you can get in the 2 to 3, that's a good start. Now, obviously, if you can go higher than that, that's amazing. But 2 to 3 is a good number. So you hope if they make a sequel or a game makes a sequel, you want to get higher in that range. So you want to get to the 3 and usually want to get to like 3, 4, 5 million copy range. So it's a good start for that franchise. And the most amazing part about it is it didn't have much PR. Literally, this game did not have PR push behind it. It didn't have anybody really pushing for the game for customers to buy the game. It really wasn't getting much talk, much screen time. It was just kind of like a little dark horse game. So another surprising thing, the game scored great, which I think this is another reason why it helped this game a lot. It scored really well. It scored between it was 77 to 81% in Metacritic score for from all its ranges of all the consoles is available from Xbox 360 all the way to the PC. So from all the games that was Dragon Dogma, the original, and then Dragon Dogma's Dark Arisen. That was kind of the range it got, which is a good range for a first entry into a new franchise, especially one in the RPG area. So with this release coming out this fall, it really opens up the question is there going to be a Dragon Dogmas 2? Is that possible? Well, we've seen something similar already with when the Darksiders released the Darksiders, the first game, and they called it the War Master instead of remaster. Like I said before, good pun. So they released that version, and then they showed off Darksiders 3 coming out next year in 2018. So is this something that's going to be happening at E3? Would that be a great surprise? I think it would be an awesome surprise. And it would be interesting to see Capcom try this out and actually do some PR push behind this game. Because now they have a good solid base, and now they can try to shoot rocket and improve the game, but then also try to shoot rocket to get this game even bigger and better than before. For me personally, I really enjoyed this game. I did. For a game that was in the same time period where it's like swords, bows and arrows, those kinds of things. It had a Elder Scrolls vibe to it, but it wasn't Elder Scrolls. The combat was so much better. The combat was reminding me of a good fighting game. And it was a little bit of a hack and slash, but there were sometimes some good strategy behind it where you had to climb sometimes on your opponent to be able to stab into them like Shadow of the Colossus. So it had a good mix, and I think it was heading in the right direction that it could do really well if it improves its mechanics and even tries to evolve in another way to make a really good sequel. It definitely has the potential in that realm. So what do you guys think? Have you played it? Would you buy the remastered edition? And do you think Dragon Dogma 2 is a good idea? One little side note, the name Dragon's Dogma, I don't really like the name. It's not catchy enough. It's not recognizable enough. It's not gonna get you in a snap like that. So if you could go back and change something, I'd change the name of the game. Just plain and simple. But overall, this franchise is awesome. And so what do you guys think about this news about Dragon Dogma's remaster? And is it gonna shoot about E3? Maybe Dragon Dogma's 2? Who knows? So the second story is IO Interactive keeps losing. And this story is IO Interactive, who worked on the recent Hitman game, has not been in the winning column recently in the news. Square Enix, their publisher, now just kind of a reminder of what a publisher is if people don't know on the screen. A publisher is the company that pays developers to make a video game. Now, publishers sometimes have companies that developers is the word, has developers that are sometimes in-house that they pay on their own payroll, or they hire outside. So this is so Square Enix hired outside for IO Interactive to make this Hitman game. So they gave it to them to publish. So they decided that the game did not do as well as they expected, and because of that, they decided to let go of IO as part of their group and as their publisher. And so because of that, IO, because they don't have a game currently being made, they're not getting a paycheck in, and they're not making a game right now from another publisher, so they're not having another income that way, is they had to cut jobs. They had to, employees lose their jobs and had to lay off employees. This is never good. I always, my condolences to the individuals that are laid off, and hopefully they will find work in the industry. This is always not the most flattering thing to talk about, especially, but it's a real thing. It's real, and we should be talking about these things because these are real people, real lives that is going on right now. So hopefully those people find work. But to kind of go into it a little bit, Hitman actually did well. They seem to have brought back Hitman in a way that fans wanted, and really people were really skeptical about this new approach they were doing with this episodic, where each episode took place in a new location. But they really seemed to find a good groove within the game that really when people played it, they got hooked. And I think that was what was so impressive about what IO Interactive did for the Hitman game, and possibly set up a really good place for the Hitman series in the future. If the Hitman series is going to continue, it possibly couldn't continue due to the really low sales due to Square Enix. But here's the same company, Square Enix, that was disappointed that Tomb Raider, the reboot Tomb Raider, didn't sell really well, even though it sold. Now, don't quote me on this one. I didn't do the research for this one. I would want to say they sold 3 million copies, which is a good start for a rebooted franchise. So that is there. So in the end, I hope that IO Interactive, because they turned this Hitman series around, what they did really cool and really different, that really bolstered this franchise different from other games is that they had these cool limited time assassinations where I think they were called contract kills, where you had a limited time in the real world to be able to go into the game and assassinate a certain individual for experience points. And it was really cool. It got people hooked. It got people coming back to those areas and doing the same area multiple times and trying to kill, take out an opponent and assassinate a certain computer player many, many different ways. And people loved that about the game. So I really hope IO finds a publisher to work with to be able to either work, if they have the rights for the Hitman game, to do another Hitman game, or find something that works in their niche a little bit and tries to play off what they were doing in the Hitman game and do it into an entirely new or a current IP that's available. So what do you think about the Hitman game? Have you played it? Do you think that the franchise should be given a second shot somewhere else, whether that's with IO or whether that's whatever with Square Enix with another developer? And then what do you think a publisher should pick up IO, since they seem to do really well with turning around the Hitman series, even though it didn't apparently sell well into the standards of Square Enix? Or what do you want who do you want them to work with as a publisher? Whether that's Sony, that's Microsoft, that's EA, that's Take-Two, all those kinds of companies. So who do you want to see them working with? And so we're going to move on to our third story. And our third story is, I call it a new battle begins. So Xbox Game Pass is ready to go, and they showed off the new interface today. Or maybe it was yesterday. Can't remember which one. I think it was yesterday, but we'll see. But they showed off the new Game Pass, where the interface on how you connect to the Game Pass, and they also announced that it was available today, and for Xbox Gold members, and then will be available for everyone else as of June 1st. So with that, because I haven't covered Game Pass and I haven't covered this news story, I was going to cover Game Pass and kind of compare it to PlayStation Now, because this is what the competition is now. We had PlayStation Now for a while sitting by itself, and finally Xbox said, hey, we need to get into this area. This is what we can do, and this is how we're different. And so I'm going to cover kind of the differences between the two and kind of let you know what probably is the better idea out of the two. So basically, for the only info I did want to give you is for Xbox Game Pass. It's a subscription service that lets you download Xbox One and Xbox 360 games. So it lets you download. There's a difference now. So they let you download the game and then play the game. Whereas PlayStation Now is the same thing. It's a subscription service, but what it does, instead of downloading the game, what you do is you stream the game. So this, by streaming, that's taking your internet service, and basically like the video you're doing now is in a sense streaming. So playing it back in a sense, but not having it downloaded where it actually loads on your hard drive. That's the difference. So the differences between the two, the comparisons, the Xbox One Game Pass allows you to do a 14-day trial, where PlayStation only lets you do a 7-day trial. The Xbox has a little over 100 games available right now, and that's just the start. It's a good start. PlayStation now has a little over 450 games available to you to play. Both have each month, so like exclusives for their first party games. So you'll like find Last of Us on PlayStation Now, and you'll find, I think their big push was Halo 5 Guardians is on Xbox Game Pass. And then the kind of difference here is price. So right now Xbox Game Pass is $9.99 a month, and you do get the 14-day free trial. And then PlayStation Now has two different prices. So their first pricing is $19.99 per month. And then the other one is you can do 3 months, and that is for $44.99. So basically you're kind of getting, almost $15 off I think it's $15 off if I'm doing the math right. So $15 off for doing a 3-month than doing a month-to-month. So kind of comparing the two, overall, I actually prefer, and here's my one reason, the Xbox Game Pass over the PlayStation Now service. And the big thing that puts me over the edge on this one is that Xbox lets you download the game instead of streaming it like PlayStation Now. I've actually tried PlayStation Now, and my issue I ran into was my game was stuttering, my game was crashing. It just wasn't. It didn't look as good. It wasn't running very smoothly, kind of with the stuttering, and that's not really a good thing. And I think personally, I have above average internet. So if I have above average internet and that's what's happening to my game while I'm trying to stream it, if that's above average, not very many people can be able to play PlayStation Now effectively. And our internet in the United States is probably better than some others in other countries, and this is supposed to be available worldwide. And I know people that it takes hours to download games. In California, where it takes me maybe an hour and a half to download a game, and sometimes it takes them 4 to 5 hours. It's very different in the internet space of what's available to people. And so downloading it is such a smart idea because, yes, you do have to take the time to download the game. But once it's downloaded on that hard drive, it's not going to stutter. It's not going to crash unless there's something wrong with the file itself when it gets downloaded on your console. It doesn't have to rely on the internet constantly to be able to run the game, where PlayStation Now you do. So this is the one thing where I'm very pleased that we have competition, because this might force the hand of PlayStation to go, if Xbox One is rocking this, we might have to consider, hey, instead of streaming our games, let's download our games. And I think if they did that, I think PlayStation 4 would definitely have the better hand on this one. But the biggest issue is the streaming, and I think downloading is just a better idea. So that's my input on it. Which one are you guys using? Are you guys using PlayStation Now? Are you guys using Xbox One Game Pass? What do you like about each service? What do you not like about each service? So write them in the comments below. So our final story, which I titled, funnily, I titled it, "Here We Go Again." Well, maybe not. So, very interestingly, a lot of video game news has came out this week. There's big 2 stories, and so I kind of wanted to cover them in one. One, Tom Holland, who is the new Spider-Man in the Sony Spider-Man movie coming out this summer, and then did the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what was it, Infinity War? No, it was Civil War. And so he has actually signed to play Nathan Drake in the Uncharted movie that has been taking forever to release. This has probably been, probably 4 years at least. It's been in talks about having an Uncharted movie and having like Nathan Fillion and play as Nathan Drake or something like that. So, but apparently they were the video game sequence where in Uncharted 3 where Nathan meets Sully when Nathan was a younger kid, and at the same time they're working with Tom Holland, who is a younger kid, who looks a lot younger as well, and is playing a high school student in Spider-Man, and they really enjoyed working with him on Spider-Man. It got to the point where they're like, let's put him and make him Nathan Drake, and let's do a story about how Nate meets Sully, because we don't really explore that very much. We only do that a little bit in Uncharted 3, but not enough to know like what really was the thing that got them hooked together. So they decided, let's put that in, let's have that be the story. So they're starting the story from scratch. They have Tom Holland confirmed as going to be Nathan Drake, And here's where it's kind of like a studio's like, I don't want to get rid of a movie star, so let's try to fit him into a franchise that we have. And so it's kind of half a throwaway, but half I feel like it's not, because they're putting such a person that they feel like is going to be a superstar for them, especially in the Spider-Man franchise, and now they're going to try to put him into the Uncharted franchise. That this might be a good sign for the Uncharted movie. We never know. Especially, it's going to be the big thing that's going to give it away is who's going to play Sully, and they haven't announced that. So they're just trying to get the buzz on this thing. So at the same time, the other thing is, at the same time, we don't know if this is actually going to take place in the real mythology of Uncharted. You know, like how the Resident Evil movies don't take place in like lore for Resident Evil, or how like Mortal Kombat doesn't take place in it's not true lore of the game as well. So we don't know that yet, and so when we figure that out, I think we'll have a better understanding of how well this movie could do. The other story is that, speaking of Resident Evil, the company that has the rights to Resident Evil is actually planning to reboot the franchise, and they're planning to use a director, a very up and coming director. His name is James Wan, and he is going to produce the Resident Evil films that are coming up, the reboot, and they're going to kind of take it back to the horror vibe, because James Wan is known for recently doing his horror movies, which have been doing really, really well in the movie industry. So here's them trying to take on a good thing. And I feel like at the same time, they're starting to take this property seriously, because they're finding a guy like James Wan who's in horror, and we just had Resident Evil 7 Biohazard that just came out, and that was probably the scariest Resident Evil I've ever played. It was a great game. I really liked Resident Evil 7. And I think it shows they're kind of bringing it back to the horror vibe by bringing someone like James Wan in, saying, hey, we need you to produce this film. We want a guy that has a horror vibe in it, and staying true to the content. So it will be really interesting. I think, yes, are we going in the same direction as movies in the past? But I think it's a little bit different, because I think they're trying to find really good talent, because I really think they want these to succeed, unlike the past movie franchises that just, money-wise, Resident Evil has done amazing. Every single movie has gotten bigger, has made more and more money for that franchise, and it has such a low budget that it just explodes in numbers. But they said the last one was the final chapter, the last one, so they're going to reboot the franchise. So I think this is a good for video game movies, that they're really trying to grab good talent, and this might be a not here we go again, because they're grabbing good talent. So what movie would you like to see more? Would you like to see the Uncharted one? Would you like to see the Resident Evil horror movie that produces by James Wan? Do you think this is a good sign for video game movies potentially? I think it does, but what do you think? Is this going to change from being not good films to actually good films? So let me know in the comments below. But that covers it for this week's GameVamp NewsCast. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know your thoughts on the stories this week. And if you enjoyed the content below, check out the channel Freeze Frame Rate, and check out the other videos that I got going, and give a like, give a thumbs up, give a share, subscribe if you really like the content. And again, I hope to do 2 to 3 videos per week, especially this one every single week. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Mitch. I'm signing off, and I'm saying see you soon.